Welcome back to the Gfinity Summer Masters 2. I'm your host, Callum Leslie, and joining me on the desk still, Lothar and Monk. Guys, we're here for our winners match from Group A. It's going to be Hoej versus Weasel. We saw Hoej have a pretty easy time of it in his first match. Pretty straightforward series. And Weasel upsetting one of the favorites, probably for the whole tournament, Cypher. Someone who's been absolutely killing it in tournaments recently. Looking forward to seeing what Weasel has to offer.
Well, Weasel is a new name for me. I don't know. Monk probably has some information about the player, right?
Yeah, Weasel has played in a few of the OG tournaments, which I've adminned, and he's basically a player that likes a lot of mid-range decks. I believe he even tinkered around with mid-range Shaman back when Totem Synergy wasn't actually a thing.
So no Totemic Might.
No Totem. Of course not, of course not. But now, like, if he's bringing Shaman, which I don't believe he is, he might even like bring in like some Totemic Might into that deck. It's a card that it's one of those cards like Sacrificial Pact, for example, that have gotten back into the metagame because of new TGT cards.
Yeah. I did speak to Weasel earlier. Actually, he did say that Shaman is his favorite class, but it's not strong enough for him to bring, unfortunately, to this tournament. But yeah, we're going to see, I think it's Warlock, Druid, and Paladin from him. Pretty strong lineup again. A Druid and a Paladin. We're going to see those match up against each other. Those look like to be the classes of the tournament so far.
Yeah, it's really interesting that players bring mid-range Paladin, which is for me, I don't know. For me, the Mysterious Challenger is such a powerful card. It just wrecks people. Like you just drop it like a Dr. Boom, and that's it.
Yeah. To me, his lineup actually is very similar to each other. Basically, those three decks are three decks that were kind of good before TGT, and they all got like 2 to 4 cards upgrade in TGT. Malagos Warlock with the Twilight Guardian, plus maybe Chillmaw, Druid with perhaps Living Root and Darnassus Aspirant, even Savage Combatant maybe. And of course, finally, the mid-range Paladin with the Murloc Knights and perhaps the Tusker Jouster.
Yeah, we did have one of our colleagues, Subtle, was actually watching that game on the Challenger stage, which is kind of interesting talking about the Druid builds. We saw Hoej playing, I don't think any TGT cards in his Druid deck. Apparently, Weasel is playing the Darnassus Aspirants and those kind of TGT tools. So it'll be interesting to see how those decks match up against each other, maybe find out which one of them is best. But we did talk a lot about LAN experience and how LAN experience can really help you when you come into this environment. If you're in experience, it's your first time playing offline, it can really hurt you. But Weasel is not a guy where that's the case. Obviously on Team B Genius, we saw his team captain here last time, Don't Stop Me. But he got to the top 4 of DreamHack Valencia earlier this year, losing to Green Sheep in the semi-finals. So he does have a lot of offline experience, and that is really going to help him here.
Well, definitely. This is, as we talked before, this is the most important factor when you're playing in a live event. You can't be nervous. You can't be making mistakes based on, just being nervous. You can make mistakes because you made a bad read on your opponent, or do you just, I don't know, based in game. But making mistakes by being nervous because you're too much focusing on emotions, it's something you really have to work on.
And Mark, you're the guy who knows what's going on in the Hearthstone pro scene. Let's talk about France for a second. People maybe it doesn't get as much attention, but the French Hearthstone scene is super strong.
Yeah, it's a very insular community. Basically, all the French players, they play together, they practice with each other, and they just play in the French tournaments, which we don't really hear much about. But France, I have to say, is probably one of the strongest Hearthstone countries, along with maybe Germany, along with Sweden. They just don't have a lot of players that really are able to break out into the international scene.
It's really interesting that, for me, France and China really are alike. It's like, I have no idea what's going there.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's like, I have no idea what's going in France. I have no idea what's going in China because I don't know either of their languages. And if I want to get any information from that scenes, I would have to read French sites or Chinese sites. And there's no other way around. Or unless you know someone that's from China.
And there's lots of players from each scene who can just break out at any moment and surprise us all.
Yeah, we just need to be looking for the next French Eloise, is what I'm thinking.
Okay, and the next French Temple Storm.
Temple Storm member, yeah?
No, like a new team, like a French team, French Temple Storm.
Sure. Well, maybe that team will be B Genius, which is Weasel and Don't Stop Me's team. Maybe they're about to break out as a big powerhouse. But as you say, there are lots. There are lots of teams and kind of teams who also organize tournaments. As Monk says, it's very insular. People like Millennium, who are a team but also organize all these tournaments as well for French players. So he has played at a number of offline events, and he looks pretty chilled out. He seems to be pretty relaxed about coming in here. I did ask him, how confident was he about being able to take the tournament, and he said, yeah, I'm pretty confident. I'm happy with my decks. I'm happy with my play, and if I go out there and do my best, sometimes the RNG will be in my favor.
Yep.
It's interesting how different players approach that kind of, I guess, confidence in Hearthstone. Because I remember I was speaking to Cypher last night, and I was saying, you've been killing it in tournaments recently, and he was like, nah, I just got really lucky. So some people, will write it off as lucky and kind of downplay it, whereas others will be like, no, I'm good, I'm confident, I'm gonna win.
Maybe he's just,
Yeah,
modest.
that's true.
Yeah.
Most people are modest when it comes to Hearthstone scene. It's way different from other games. When you compare like people to Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, most of the FPS games, right? They are like, well,
Shots fired at FPS there from Lothar. Oh yes, Nimsh isn't the only one that can do puns. There we go.
Well, I think out of the 5 quote unquote unknown players in the whole tournament, I think he's the one that has the most confidence. He's not going to get too nervous going into his matches, and we just haven't really seen him flub out too much, even in other tournaments like Onag, where he, even in his camera at home, he looks really confident. He doesn't make too many misplays.
Yeah. One thing I like about the setup here at Gfinity as well, which you guys saw just a few minutes ago in one of the camera shots, the guys can see the trophy from their booths. It's right there in the middle of the 2 booths, and yes, you're concentrating on your screen, but just out the corner of your eye, you can see the trophy. It's keeping their eyes on the prize, as it were. And it keeps, I guess, to keep it real and does keep your eyes on the prize and keep you focused on what is you're gunning for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's actually, I believe, the same setup as what BlizzCon had last year. So this is kind of like
there you go, you can see it now.
Yeah, it's kind of like a precursor to BlizzCon.
It's a nice trophy as well. The kind of curved thing. It's nice. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I think Firebat, when he first played in the Gfinity tournaments back in the day, the first and second one, of course, which he won, he was really upset that he didn't get a trophy. And he's like, you got to get a trophy. I'd rather take the trophy than even money.
Well, he did get one for the second one, right?
Okay.
When you've already won BlizzCon and taken home $100,000, I think you can say things like the trophy's more important than prize money. But for people who haven't won things before, maybe it's kind of the other way. But we are getting ready for a match. Obviously, we didn't talk too much about Hoej, but a pretty confident performance from him. Monk, you picked him as one of your favorites to win the whole tournament. Are you feeling vindicated after seeing the first match?
Oh, definitely. Like a 3-0 victory in the first match. What could be more convincing than that? And not only that, but just the way he played it's very standard Hoej. Even though his decks that he's playing, the Hunter deck and the Druid deck, they're often touted as decks that don't require a lot of skill. I think he showed that there was indeed a lot of decision making required to play those decks, and we're just seeing the classes right now for both players, and we kind of already discussed how they really match up. Both players are bringing Paladin and Druid, even though the Paladin is sort of different from each other. One with Mysterious Challenger, and one that's kind of like the standard mid-range Paladin that we're used to even before TGT.
It's a very slow deck. Like one of the slowest in the metagame, I would say.
I'm really interested to see how the Malagos kind of Druid Warlock of Weasel is going to work in this matchup as well, because we talked about Malagos Warlock being kind of the deck of the tournament at the last Gfinity Summer Masters, but it has kind of fallen out of favor. But I was asking the pros earlier what their favorite TGT card was. One of the most common responses was Twilight Guardian. It's a card that people thought was strong, but maybe didn't appreciate just how good it is, Lothar.
It's really insane. It's one of the best cards in the entire game, and it made the whole dragon concept viable.
Just that one card.
Just that one card. No, if there would be no Chermo in this expansion, there would be still dragon decks because of the Twilight Guardian. And the Twilight Guardian is a card that it's like the better water elemental against druids. Because it's for better classes against druids. Like you can play it in priest, you can play it in paladin, you can play it in warlock. So those classes are meant to beat druid now, at least in my opinion, if they're playing the dragon versions.
Monk, one of the things to notice here is, of course, the person who wins this is getting out of the group, and they're going to be in the money. That's a pretty big thing for these guys, that you make it to Championship Sunday just by winning this match here.
Well, both these players have, of course, made in the money before. Hoej, he won VA Game House Cup #2, which is pretty big prize pool. I believe $10,000.
Yep.
And Weasel finished top 4 at the at DreamHack Valencia. So that's still quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Even though both players, they're going to be winning some money if they win this match, I think it's more important that they get their name out there, that they just keep winning. Of course, Hoej, he still doesn't have a team yet, so he's going to be looking to get his name out there even more, so a team will eventually pick him up.
Absolutely. Predictions from you guys?
I think Hoej will take us.
Yeah, I have to go with Hoej again, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than the last match. Weasel is a bit more of an experienced player, so he's probably going to take a few games off of Hoej.
By the way, didn't Weasel look a little like Kit Kats? Like his really look like, right?
Kit Kat's retired from the scene, and he's coming back as a French player.
Okay.
Well, both our players up here are picking Hoej. Waiting to bring the match is Sottle and Nimsh. Guys, take it away.
Thank you so much, guys. I really adore the geographical discussion about China being France being China. But what I want to stress is the Malagas Warlock. And the guys talked about it a lot. But the player that I want to mention is Gosu Forever, who took the European Fireside Gathering with that deck.
Okay.
And now Weasel is bringing the same deck. That deck was prominent in France. And I talked with Weasel yesterday. He was watching the tournament. So he saw the power of the Twilight Guardian in that particular deck. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's not a deck that I've had a chance to experiment with, but I've played against it a lot since the release, and Twilight Guardian just shores up the curve a lot more, and it allows you to be a little less reliant on the Malagos win condition. A lot of times now, Malagos was already a deck that could curve out a little bit and just beat people on tempo sometimes. Twilight Guardian just makes that so much more consistent to do now. It's just such a reliable card.
So it makes the Dragon concept viable. Does it make the Dragon consort viable?
We have not been seeing too much Dragon Paladin, no. We see Paladin here in the first game, but I believe we've just seen Secrets and surprisingly for me, a bit of mid-range Pally today so far, which was not a deck that I expected to see a lot of.
Yeah, it's another build. So I've mentioned that before, that we have a couple of Mysterious Challenger builds, but midrange is still there, and it still has a couple of builds of its own.
Yep. I had the pleasure of watching Weasel's first game off stream while he was playing his round, and he is in fact running a mid-range Paladin, as you can probably see from the game here. So Tyrion, dead giveaway that it's probably mid-range. I mean, I can confirm that it is mid-range because I watched the game, but there is a build of Secrets that you can run with Tyrion in it, but it's not the most common one.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the normal Secrets and Tyrion being the highest curve card.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so game number 1, Hoej versus Weasel. Hoej running the Hunter, Weasel running the Paladin. So it's a repeat of the first game we've seen in the last match. And what do you think about the matchup overall from Hunter's perspective?
Assuming from the web spinner this is a mid-range Hunter from Hoej, I actually quite like the Paladin in this matchup. They just have a lot of efficient answers for things. Owl contests all of the early Hunter minions. Things like Outdoor Peacekeeper is one of the best answers to high main. You have good board control options with True Silver in the mid game, and you have just generally good board clears as well with Consecration and Equality. So
what about Unleash though? Like Unleash is one of those cards that actually counters Paladin having a huge board, and if Hunter gets aggressive enough.
Yeah, it can do a job, but say for if you're unleashing, say, a muster for battle board, you're still kind of trading 1-for-1, and your opponent's retaining the weapon afterwards. So normally, Unleash as a mid-range Hunter is a card that you're using kind of defensively, and it's kind of an insurance card against decks that are more aggressive than yours, and not really a tool that you want to use against decks that are trying to control you. So I don't think Unleash is too big of a card in this matchup from the Hunter side.
But it seems it actually has Leper Gnome, so it might be the hybrids.
It's actually really interesting to see Web Spinner and Leper Gnome in the same deck. Like, normally they're directly competing with each other for that 1-drop spot, so that's very interesting. Not sure exactly where Hoej is going with this build.
No Brave Archer though.
No Brave Archer, no. We're still a way off that one happening, I think. King of Beasts coming into the hand of the Web Spinner. Not sure how big an impact that will have on the game, but very aggressive opening here from Hoej. Huge board presence on turn 3.
Well, this is the way how you turn Unleash into a deadly card, because if you are ahead and if there is a board of minion, you Unleash and you just go face.
Absolutely.
You force Paladin to trade into your minions. But there is the Consecration. Is that the play, though?
I would... Honestly, I think I'd like coining the Shredder here and using the Consecration next turn to try and consolidate the board position of your Shredder. Generally, if you're playing against a deck that you think is more aggressive than yours, just sitting back and playing removal turn after turn doesn't really get you anywhere. You need to get a minion to stick and then try and protect that card with your removal options. So I really like the play here to coin the Shredder.
Absolutely. You also have time because you're not dead yet, so this is the right time to actually try to develop your board. Especially because Consecration is actually good next turn.
Precisely, yeah. So, big tipping point here for Hoej. It's a pretty easy decision here, I think, to trade into the Shredder, but by doing so, you know, you're telling your opponent, okay, I'm not just going all out aggro here. Like, I do care about your board a little bit. So I like the play there to trade into the minion, just consolidate his board position, lessens the effect of Consecration a little bit.
Oh man, you absolutely missed the tiny Knight of Evil. It was so tiny that you missed it. It's nowhere to be seen. Where is this?
Yeah, it seems unfortunately at the moment the most TGT cards that we're seeing is just drops out of things like Shredder and Web Spinner right now. There's you know, people are still, I guess, too comfortable with their pre-TGT decks, so that, you know, when they come into tournaments with, you know, big money and big prestige on the line, they're just going to what they know and they're not trying anything hugely experimental yet.
Absolutely. I think it was Snowball, though. People will start including more and more TGT cards in the metagame will change. I think we can see it on Ladder already. Ladder does have a different metagame.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now that the BlizzCon points are over, there's a lot less incentive to, you know, really try hard on Ladder. You can mess around and experiment with new decks.
Dreadsteed.
Yeah, Dreadsteed Warlock. And then you queue into Patrons and you cry.
Reporting for duty.
Alright, so chooses to just go with the developing play here with Minibot Hero Power instead of Consecrating, which looks like the right play. Consecrate not doing a great deal here because of the Haunted Creeper. So now if you're Hoej, how are you looking to respond to this board?
It doesn't look great. You only have those small minions, and Paladin still full health almost, 22, and a lot of cards in hand.
Yep, I like this play though. Just go ahead, play Fen Creeper, and push a bit of damage into face. With Unleash and Kill Command in his hand, he's actually quite close to lethal here. You know, he has the bow equipped, he has hero powers, and he has the burst of Kill Command plus, you know, 1 extra for every minion on the board for Unleash the Hounds as well. So pushing damage into face is definitely very relevant here.
So for Weasel, it seems like I'll Peacekeeper and just dude up. Or do you Consecrate? Like, if you Consecrate, you only reduce 1 power of board.
Yeah, that doesn't seem great.
If you Aldor the Lion...
Yeah, it's
all about the setting up Consecration for the next turn, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at, but I don't really see a way that it happens particularly cleanly. Because you really need to do that 1 damage to the Haunted Creeper first, right, before you want to Consecrate.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do right now.
Well, that's why having Aldor and another 1/1
Move quickly.
seems decent. It's not the best, but it seems like the best play he can do here. If he goes for Master, it doesn't do anything.
No, I agree. It's not, like you said, it's not an ideal play, but it's the best of what he's got. His hand is quite clunky through these kind of mid-game turns. It's going to develop a lot of power later, but for now, he just needs to fight for a board.
So the idea to go for the Master here means that it does develop the same amount of power on board than he had before, but he is threatening Quartermaster, and he is giving himself a chance to actually top deck a Quartermaster to take over the board.
Right.
But now we might have a big Unleash.
Right, it looks really good, but it's hard to get full value out of it, right? Because of the space on the board. Because he can't trade off the Haunted Creeper, because that just gives him less spots. So the only way he can remove one of his minions easily is to trade the 2/2 into the 2/2, and then he's only getting 4 dogs anyway.
But
so
why
yeah.
do you don't have to trade? I think you can just go for phase with everything.
Right, I'm just saying, like, he's technically missed out on a dog here, and there was no way to maximize his 5 dogs, so he's just going to take the 4 and go for phase.
Do you really think he's so sad about it?
No, absolutely not.
If he has lethal, it's like.
Yeah, I guess killing your opponent is usually the right play, right?
All right, so Hoej takes game number 1, and he might be sad because he missed 1 dog, but he didn't miss lethal. We're just too focused on counting the dogs.
Yeah, I was. That completely passed me by there. I just wasn't thinking like a hunter, right? You just play your cards and hit them in the face. That has to be the right play. Yeah.
That's the plan. So just opening that Master might have been deadly for Weasel. If you would go for Aldor, he was still in a bad spot. Like no heals, really Hunter was ahead, was just pushing with the game. So that's how it is. I think from my perspective, that was mostly good matchup for the Hunter if Paladin doesn't get the answers. He never get the chance to cast the Consecration.
Right, yeah, he was sat there with 2 Consecrations in his hand, which normally Consecration is a card you're happy to have in your hand against Hunter as Paladin, but it was just never good. And I guess you have to give the credit to Hoej there for playing around Consecration as well as he did. So.
Yeah, setting up the board where you consecrate and you actually reduce only 1 damage from board.
Yeah. And then the King of Beasts coming off Web Spinner was actually crucial because it protected that Haunted Creeper so that, the Creeper couldn't be popped preemptively before the Consecration. So again, just ensuring that the Consecrates were never good, and he was just sat with 2 dead cards in his hand.
Yeah, and on the back of Leper Gnome, dealing 2 points of damage.
Right.
That was important. If that would be Brave Archer, that would not work.
Yeah, it's, again, very interesting to see Web Spinner and Leper Gnome in the same deck there, but both of those cards crucial. The Leper Gnome getting its 2 damage in was crucial for the lethal that I say that we saw at the end. We didn't exactly see it, but and then, of course, Web Spinner crucial for pulling out the King of Beasts as well to just consolidate the game and the board presence.
Absolutely. So what do you think Hoej is going to bring now?
So Hoej has
Paladin and Druid.
He has Paladin and Druid left against a full lineup. I'm not sure how much information he has on Weasel's deck. Decks, sorry. So I'd quite like to see the Paladin here. I think Paladin is pretty reasonable against anything that you can come out with here, and just getting a 2-0 advantage is just so key. Like the difference between 2-0 and 1-1, I think, is the biggest 1-game swing in a best-of-5 conquest, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then you're just left with 1 deck and you have 3 chances to win with it. I think he might actually know the lineup. I think he is close with Kevin, and Kevin might have been scouting the same time when Hoej was playing. Sure, as well for Weasel, I think someone could have told Weasel what's up, and Weasel was also. I think that when he finished the match, he was just watching it on the VOD or something. Okay. Just catching up. So at this point, the cards that were shown on stream, I think the guys have knowledge about them. Okay.
In that case, I think if he has full knowledge, then I think we will definitely see the Secret Paladin come out here, because I think it's favored. It's definitely favored against Malilok in my experience. It's definitely favored against all forms of Druid in my experience. And the mid-range Pally, some people have said that mid-range Pally does pretty well against it. I haven't. So that's not been my experience, but I'd certainly be happy picking it into mid-range Pally as well. So I think the Secret Paladin is a pretty solid pick here.
All right. What I would personally like to see is the Malygos Warlock from Weasel, just to see how it works with Twilight Guardian. But I absolutely, actually, we are going to see that. I think we are going to see the Paladin, as you mentioned, the Secret Paladin from Hoej versus the Malygos Warlock, and that's a matchup you don't normally see that often.
It isn't. No, I think any Warlock tends to lose to the aggressive build of the Secret Paladin, which I believe Hoej is playing. A lot of 1-drops and topping out a Shredder, I think, is the build that he's running.
But you say any Warlock, but this Warlock is a bit different.
It is, yeah.
If you go Implosion and then start trading, like Implosion is really good to play around the secrets.
Right.
Dark Bomb into the target that got buffed by Avenge. Normally, if a small Silver-Handed Recruit gets buffed, it has 3 health.
3 health, yeah.
So there's a lot of different things you can do. And even with the Mysterious Challenger getting buffed by Avenge, you do have the Big Game Hunters, or you had them historically in the old lists. What do people cut for Twilight Guardian?
I'm not sure, actually. There's a few flexible cards. 1 or 2 BGH was always a thing in that deck. 1 or 2 Soulfire was always a thing. Ooze or not, yeah. So I don't think it's like a direct cut. It's just there was flex spots in the deck that now don't exist anymore because they've been taken up by Twilight Guardian. But yeah, like you said, that the Malygos deck definitely has tools to fight back. But I think if the Paladin can just really get some aggression going, the lack of defensive options when compared to something like Handlock.
No Molten Giants.
No Molten Giants, no real way to make huge taunts. You're kind of just relying on heal bots to sustain you. So
what about like Zombie Chows and Imp Gang Boss, Implosion, Hellfire?
Yeah, they're useful early, but Imp Gang Boss, True Silver takes care of it pretty nicely on curve. There's ways to do it. Some of the Paladin decks aren't running Consecrate though. They choose to favor things like Blessing of Kings instead.
Absolutely.
So Implosion can definitely get a lot of work done in those situations.
All right, so game number 2 is ready, and we can see the mulligans right now. Hoej is running the Secret Paladin versus the Malygos Warlock based on Malygos itself and the combo cards.
Interesting to see Blackwing Technician in Weasel's opening hand, because I believe I saw him playing an Imp Gang boss in the previous set off stream. So it looks like he's actually playing more than the 2 copies of 3-drops. It looks like he has at least 3 of them.
It makes sense because before Blackwing Technician didn't have space in the deck because he didn't have that many dragons for the early drops. But now if you run Twilight Drake and Twilight Guardian, you actually have more chances to get those dragons early.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hoej looks like he's toying with keeping Divine Favor here, which he does know this is a controlling Warlock deck, but he also knows, if he has been given information that we suspect, he knows that it's Malilock, which isn't going to have as many cards in their hand as Handlock does most of the time, because they can play a curve early on with 3, 4, 5 of minions. So.
But still, it's a Warlock deck that's using a lot of life tap because you want to get combo cards and then slam Torison, hit the combo parts.
Yep.
And sometimes you just don't draw into low drops, and your hand is cluttered with all the cards, and then Divine Favor is one of the key things to return to the game.
All right, so we do see Consecration in Hoej's hand, so it's not a card that he's chosen to cut from this deck, which means he will have a potential answer to Implosion if it comes down, and other than that, his curve is really nice here. Just 2 sticky minions early, and then the option to coin the Shredder for even more stickiness later.
Oh my god, he can even just go with the Mysterious Challenger.
Right.
But on the other hand, Weasel, well, I don't think he got the cards he really wanted. A 3/5 is nice, and he has the curve, but can he really come back?
Oh, the double Mysterious Challenger draw. The coin Dr. 6 into Dr. 6 option is approaching here, but he can...
Dr. 6?
Dr. 6,
Dr. 6. What is really amazing about this deck is that normally you would think that secrets are going to clutter your hand, and you're going to have bad draws. But after you play Mysterious Challenger, not only you filter the secrets from your deck to increase the quality of your draws, you really increase the quality of your draws because suddenly you have less cards and those cards are better.
Yes, it's a really... people often use the phrase thinning your deck wrongly in Hearthstone as just to they call a cycle card like Azure Drake. They say you're thinning your deck. Well, that's not really what you're doing. A card like Mad Scientist for Freeze Mage or Mysterious Challenger for this deck, that's thinning your deck. That's pulling the junk out of your deck that you don't want to draw and making your top decks much better, much more consistently. And it's just part of the reason why the card is so insane. That's why generally it's a thing where you want to save your Divine Favors with this deck until after you've played your Mysterious Challenger, because otherwise, you Divine Favor for 5 cards. And
the quality of the draws is insane.
Yeah, you just pull 5 secrets off the top. You're like, oh, God, I don't want these.
That's exactly what Hoej did at some point. He really pushed for Mysterious Challenger first, and then he followed out with Divine Favor.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the right way to play the deck. So. Not surprised to see Hoej going with that.
All right, so Hoej in a great position this turn, also amazing with Pilot Shredder. Just he can also go for face. One of the best things about playing against Malygos as an aggro, there are no Molten Giants, so you can just go for face and nothing is going to stop you. The only cards you fear are the AoE clears like Hellfire, Shadow Flame, but nothing stops you overall.
And even if he didn't have the perfect information on which deck he was playing against before the set, he's already seen the Blackwing Technician that we have on the board right now, so he knows there are no Molten Giants. Yeah, he has a very, very strong suspicion there are no Molten Giants in this deck. Never rule anything out, but I would be amazed if he decides to play around Molten Giants at any point in this game.
If he wants to be extra safe.
All right, so double Blackwing Corruptor can start to fight back on the board here, but even 5-mana Fire Elemental might be a little bit slow here.
Well, a good Doomsayer from Pilot Shredder always helps.
That's true, yeah. That could be very helpful.
But you probably don't even want the Doomsayer. You want to kill the Shredder, get some easy minion to clear, and then just get the 2/2 with your 3/3. Kill whatever happens with the 4/7.
Ooh, that's a nice minion.
Yeah, that's not the best, but it's not the worst as well. But then again, right now Weasel has 2 big minions on board and a 3/1 that's going to die. Hoej doesn't have a lot of pressure for now.
I think that Redemption might be a pretty bad draw for Hoej because many builds of this deck, they choose to only run 1 Redemption and 1 Repentance, so he may have just reduced his Mysterious Challenger pulls by 1 there. We'll know by how many secrets come out, because I'm pretty sure Coin Challenger is going to be the play here.
Coin Challenger? What about Knife Juggler Consecration? Would you even consider that?
I don't think so. What does that? That lets you kill the 5/4 as well. No, I don't. I think getting the secrets out on the board is a much better play here.
All right. And also it increases the quality of your next draw next turn.
Yeah.
There is a Shadow Flame.
It's a timely draw because he knows there's going to be a competitive spirit in play here, so he doesn't want to leave too many minions remaining on the board. But these turns are so complicated, and I would not be surprised at all to see the rope coming into play here, because working out the optimal way to deal with Noble Sacrifice, Avenge, competitive spirit, and Redemption is just ridiculous.
So there's a couple of options he has, because he might actually, as you say, try to deal with the minions, but can he ignore the minions? Right now, there is 8 power on board, plus 3 from Spirit, so 11, and then 7 left.
No, because Avenge will certainly proc, right? Because even if you go face, you hit the Noble Sacrifice, and then the Noble Sacrifice procs the Avenge.
What about just slamming Thorison and passing?
I think that would be a valid play. I think if you're attacking at all, then you have to play the clearing game, but I think not attacking and slamming Thorison would have been a definite consideration.
And right now, he might not have enough time to do everything he wants. The time is running out. Can he actually finish all the actions?
Looks like we got there okay. But still, like, look at the board he's left behind. He had 2 huge minions on board and an AoE in his hand, and look at what he left behind. Like,
the same thing.
It's just ridiculous.
It's the same amount of power.
Yeah.
But he got rid of all the secrets. But there is a second mysterious challenger.
He may be tempted just to consecrate here, though. It's really clean, right? Just hero power, consecrate.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if you go for face, I get him what, 11-7? You play challenger. That's again really challenging for your opponent.
Right.
And then you can have consecration as the burst card to finish it off.
So he hasn't drawn any other secrets yet, right? So his second challenger will pull another Noble Sack, another Avenge, and probably another competitive spirit, depending on what his build is. We saw only 4 secrets got pulled last time, and one of them was Redemption, which he has in his hand, so we know that he's not playing Repentance in his deck. So, yeah, it looks like he's going for the Consecrate play here, just setting up lethal.
That makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, I really like this play.
What can even Warlock use? You've seen Shadow Flame. Hellfire is only helping you if you're a Paladin.
I like it a lot. I would have considered the merits of playing Redemption there instead of summoning the 1/1, because you're giving a Mortal Coil target if he doesn't have the outs in his deck, in his hand, to draw through quicker to another heal bot or something. And Redemption kind of almost guarantees you'll have something to stick on the board next turn, and then you can use Knife Juggler and start throwing knives to really push the damage along with what you have. That 1 damage that you guarantee on the board might be important, whereas adding 1 power to a board that you're just assuming is going to stick doesn't seem to be as important.
Well, for Weasel the turn, it seems like you coil the 1/1 first, and then you possibly just Blackwing Corruptor 1 of the 2/2s, and you have to Soulfire with your last mana crystal.
Yeah. That looks about right.
He's not dead yet.
No, he's not dead yet. But he is going to have to deal with another mysterious challenger this turn if we don't see lethal coming into hand.
Solo. Comeback time!
Oh, he did top deck the Noble Sacrifice though, but it's fine because he still has 1 mana to play a spare secret anyway, but he probably would have liked to play the Redemption anyway. So maybe that is a pretty bad draw. Because he's going to be 1 secret short of what he could have had. He's going to choose to go with the Noble Sacrifice to guarantee the Avenge proc.
Oh, that's anticlimactic. Just 1 secret from Challenger, please.
World's saddest Christmas tree. It's like you've gone to the lot too late and they've already sold out of all the nice trees and you're left with just the little ratty Christmas tree. Just 1 secret gets pulled out.
So it seems like there is nothing you can do here.
It doesn't look great. You do have the life to tap. If he taps into a heal bot, does that help? If he taps
into Big Game Hunter.
He does possibly have 2 of them in the deck as well. Is a deck that sometimes can support double Big Game Hunter.
Oh wait, if he taps into Big Game Hunter, he's still dead. Oh no, he can Darkbone. So because that's Noble Sacrifice and Avenge.
Yes.
So you attack here, you get Noble Sacrifice, Avenge buffs something. I would probably...
If he's going for the BGH play, he should have Dark Bombed the 2/2 first to guarantee the Avenge onto the 6/6.
Well, first he should have tapped, probably.
Right. Yeah, this board is now much more difficult to clear because of the way that's spread. And we don't see any answers here, I don't think. Yep, that is just going to be game 2. So Hoej, so far, stampeding through the winners bracket. 3-0 and now 2-0.
Yeah, he's 5-0 versus our players. Yep. Just crazy. And now he just needs to win with his Druid deck with no TGT cards.
Yeah, it surprises me because I know we had a little discussion about this earlier, but Living Roots is such a powerful card, such a flexible card that I can't imagine choosing to run a Druid without it at the moment. I don't know how you feel about it.
What do you think, like, well, I absolutely love Living Roots card, and what do you think about switching Wrath to Living Roots in the old list? Like, you still love your old list, but you play Living Roots instead of Wrath.
Just a straight-up substitution Wrath for Living Roots.
Would you do that?
I think it's okay. I think it's worth trying, especially since you can play Drakes because Drake synergizes so well with Living Roots anyway. So the card draw that you lose with Wrath is kind of offset by the fact that you're playing double Drake anyway.
And you play Salvador, so like you can always use the minions and decide if you want the minions or the damage.
Right, and Living Roots is one of those cards that changes the combo maths on turn 10 as well because it's no longer good enough to play around 14 anymore. You have to play around 16. So it's a really flexible card just for board presence early, for an anti-aggro option, for the synergy with Azure Drake, and for board presence to buff Savage Roar, and for the surprise extra damage for a turn 10 combo. Like, what other card is that flexible? Like, I've just come up with so many good uses for it.
And it also has nice art. Well, maybe not.
They are adorable,
the
right?
Groots,
yeah, they're so
they're
cute.
just perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty good card. What do you think about Aspirant in the old kind of Druid instead of Wild Grove?
When the set was announced, I called Aspirant my favorite card just because it was the card that made me think the hardest. Because I was kind of working out like how good is it to skew, like because you lose inevitability, right? If you cast Aspirant instead of Wild Growth and you have Shade in your hand, you don't have the inevitability. You have Shredder in your hand. You don't have the inevitability. It can get Frostbolted, and then you're sad because you have to Hero Power turn 3. So I was trying to work out whether it was a good card or not, and it turns out it is a very, very good card because it's I think the best use of it is it's a Wild Growth that you can actually also play as an anti-aggro card, which is just such a fantastic tool because often against aggro decks, Wild Growth almost feels too slow. You kind of want the Innovate. So now having a Wild Growth that sort of functions as a competitive body on the board and also a taunt against aggro decks to an extent because they want to kill it. It's such a different card against aggro than Wild Growth.
There's one problem with it though. It's great in the very beginning of the game, but when you get it late game, with Wild Growth you can at least cycle it and draw another card. With this you just play it to vanilla 2-3. But
That's
game
true.
number 3 is actually starting. Hoej versus Weasel. Weasel with his back to the wall. If he loses this, he will drop to the... Well, he's not eliminated yet, but he will lose the match. And if Hoej wins, he actually advances to tomorrow.
We see... I think we've just lost Hoy's hand here, but from what I saw, it looked pretty disappointing. I think he had Harrison and Dr. Boom in his opening hand, which is not a great scenario.
You're never disappointed by Dr. Boom. Come on. Just need to wait 6 turns and then you win.
Yeah, maybe if you have Wild Growth and Innovate, then you're happy to have Dr. Boom. But yeah, that's an ugly-looking hand for Hoej right now. No ramp options and nothing to play early, so... Pretty sad-looking hand against the Malilock here.
Something that he might want to pick up is Keeper of the Grove. And if Weasel plays the Twilight Drake and it gets silenced, then it might work. But yeah.
I don't have enough.
So Hoej trying to mind game that he actually has a card to play.
Yeah, it's something Druid players like to do a lot more than most classes. I know when I play Druid in tournament, I never instantly pass turn 1. I will sit and, consider all the Innovates and Wild Growths that I don't have in my hand, just to convince my opponent that I have various options.
Life Coach does that even in Mage.
Yeah. Life Coach can be sat with a hand of 5-6 drops in his hand with 2 mana and think, what's the play here?
If I would have Innervates.
Good old Life Coach.
All right, so for now, it seems that the situation is really good for Weasel. Let's evaluate his hand fully. He has the minions. Minions are really good to have in the deck in the early stages in this Malygos Druid because Malygos Warlock. You win with minions most of the time. It's cool to have Malygos with the Soulfire or Darkworm and get Torison, get the combo parts reduced. But what's mostly the best in the deck is just Twilight Drake into Corruptor, just killing the minions, and even without Malygos, finishing your opponent with Darkworm to the face.
Yeah, that's kind of like the hidden strength of Malygos Lock is that it's just a surprisingly good tempo deck. It beats so many decks just on the tempo of cards like Blackwing Corruptor and Implosion. Like it's just such a high. The card quality is so high that the Malagos combo is just kind of there as an afterthought in some games. Like, you can just curve out and beat people, which is generally the best type of deck in Hearthstone, where you just play your stuff and develop and play your curves. So.
That also defines a good combo deck.
Right.
That the deck can win if you don't draw the combo.
Right.
Same with Patron. You have to draw. Well, okay,
to a
so
lesser
Patron is
extent.
different. You draw your deck.
Basically, like Patron, you have various combinations that you can draw. You don't have to draw one specific thing. You can draw 3 or 4 different things. So yeah.
True. See, Dr. Boom on 5.
Boom.
That's good.
Yeah. Why did I ever doubt the power of Dr. Boom in your opening hand? And again, we don't see the big game hunter here, so I'm just going to make a read based on the scarcity of him drawing big game hunter, that he's only playing 1 in the deck, and that's one of the things he's using to make room for the extra Twilight Guardians.
I think right now with the current metagame, with Paladin all over and Patron as well, you don't have to play double big game hunter.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of decks are just cutting big game hunter entirely because of how tempo-y and combo-y the meta is at the moment, with the strong decks being, as you said, the Paladin deck and Grim Patron and things like that. So. Yeah, I think 1 big game hunter in this deck is definitely correct. I did see earlier that he's running the techie little abusive sergeant to, you know, scale up the big game hunter to deal with cards like Emperor and Lower Theb and stuff like that. So that does make your big game hunters a little bit more flexible.
Absolutely, just to buff the creatures. Okay, so what's the correct thing here? It doesn't look great and time is running out. Can Weasel finish his turn? Is he going to attack into the bomb and risk Blackwing Raptor dying for damage? Oof. Is he going to Dark Bomb?
Oh, that does not feel good. That Dr. Boom just got so much value there.
It always does.
Yeah, it's true. A second Innovate coming into hand from Hoej here. So he's drawing his ramp early enough that it's having an effect on the game. He didn't have, you know, the nice stack of ramp in your opening hand that you always want to, but he's not, you know, he's not top decking it on turn 12 on a crucial turn. He's drawing it at a point where it's still relevant, which is good for him here.
He'll probably prefer to have Keeper of the Grove though.
Yeah,
that would be such a clean kill.
Yes. But Lotheb is nice here. Just lock out several options like Dart Bomb and Mortal Coil from his opponent and develop a nice fat minion on the board.
Was there anything else that you could think of? It seems like you don't want to use Innervate that turn.
No, it's just the option of like Shredder Hero Power or Lotheb, I guess. Just whether you value the curve consideration of getting in the extra hero power, but probably not. I like Lotheb here for the larger, slightly more aggressive body.
Alright, so here for Weasel there is a couple of options. He goes with the Torison, but it seems like there was also a possibility to run into Lotheb and coil it. But the the bomb is annoying.
Yeah, he also had some Blackwing Corruptor options, but nothing looked too appealing there. Emperor does come down and hit Soulfire and Dart Bomb, so both of those cards can now be cast immediately with Malagos if it's drawn. Again, this isn't a matchup where generally the Malagos is playing for the combo. This is one where they're trying to deny tempo for the Druid and seize tempo for themselves. But, if Malagos comes into the hand, that burst option is always nice to have there, I guess.
Yeah, I think because of that, he's actually in a good position. He still has the Corruptor, he still has Azure, so he will be drawing cards. He just needs to survive the Druid and get the Druid to 17, because that's the amount of damage he has in hand if he draws into Malagos on turn 10.
It's a matter of whether he can do that without having to use those burst options as removal to fight for the board, though. That's going to be the against a deck as aggressive as Druid, then that might be a little bit difficult. Okay, so he's going to choose to trade the bomb over using his hero power, which allows him to develop the Shade. He had the option to develop the Shade anyway there and innovate his hero power, which, the innovate is very, very quickly running out of value here in his hand because he's approaching the 10 mana point anyway. So I may have liked retaining the Boombot on the board there and just using his hero power to deal the 1 damage to Emperor.
I'm fine with the bomb, but I agree that maybe just keeping the bomb will be a bit better. Especially because so many minions have 4 health in the Malagos deck, so and we see some of them in the hand. But that's an awkward turn. You want to Mortal Coil, possibly, but you might be thinking about Implosion as well.
Yeah, you just saw a swipe the turn before, so Implosion's looking pretty juicy, but that ends up being your whole turn, the whole relevant part of your turn. You can tap, I guess, to draw a card, but you don't want to be tapping too much at this point with the Shade on the board, because he does begin to threaten lethal starting in 2 turns. So. Alright, looks like he is going to go ahead and tap. second Drake comes into the hand, so he's going to choose to play that one by the looks of things, and then we'll probably see the 0-mana Mortal Coil being used. I like this. Corrected his ordering there. So both cards draw a card, so the normal rule isn't good enough. So at that point, you pass on to use the cheapest option first, because that leaves you the most flexibility with what you draw.
So good sequencing from Weasel.
Mm-hmm.
And for Hoej, well, he needs to set up lethal with Savage Roar. And right now, his hand doesn't look that great, but he has the second Shade, so he might actually be slowly getting there. If he plays Shade right now, and do not attack, even though it's really risky because of Hellfire or Shadow Flame, how much damage will he have if he top decks Force of Nature?
So that Shade will grow to 4, the second one will grow to 3, so that'll be 7 plus 14
25.
plus 4, yeah, 25.
And then with Innovate, that's 26.
Yep, with the hero power as well. Ooh. I choose to trade here. I was just about to bring up the point that developing the double Shade board looks really good here from our perspective, but from Hoej's perspective, without the perfect information, he hasn't seen an AoE from his opponent yet, if I recall correctly. So well, he could be scared of the losing both of his Shades to a Shadow Flame or a Hellfire.
Yeah, there was so much draw and so many cards in the Weasel's hand, and that's still a lethal setup if he gets the Force of Nature.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So I like this play a lot. Bit of an insurance policy against, cards that we know as casters that he doesn't have in his hand. But, Hoej playing the odds correctly here. Weasel is more than entitled to have drawn a Shadow Flame or a Hellfire by now. So the double Shade board was very risky.
It's interesting how Hoej is still playing it patiently, even though he knows he has 3 chances. So he might actually take the risk, but he doesn't. He plays it really safely.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. It's not something that I consider too much. I don't think my playstyle changes too much based on positioning of games, but I have spoken to some people who've said that very thing. That's like when they're 2-0 up in a game, they can kind of see the merit in going all out in a lot more situations, and just since they have so many chances to seal the game. So I think that's definitely a valid mindset, but like you said, Hoej just going with the consistent option, trying to grind his opponent out the old-fashioned way here.
Oh, there is this Force of Nature.
19,
it's
not
2
quite
damage
enough.
off.
Yep. You have to hold the. You have to just develop Shredder, Hero Power Face.
This deck is having a lot of healbots, and even though you're not playing around Molten Giants, healbot, Defender of Argus, Sludge Belcher, Twilight Guardian.
Right. Yeah, a lot of options to prevent the lethal here. I don't think Hoej will be feeling too confident right now. Ooh.
A lot of healbots.
A lot of healbots, yeah. So yeah, unless Hoej picks up probably exactly Ancient of Lore next turn, I think he's going to quickly find this game spiraling out of control.
Yeah, it seems like Hoej is on the losing end, but Weasel did use that Dark Bomb, so right now for Malygos he only has the Soulfire. It's still a minion game.
Yeah, he does need to make some sort of defensive play this turn. If he just removes the Shredder entirely, then Hoej will have exactly 20 on the following turn with combo, so...
What do you think about the sequencing here? Oh, Cut Burst!
I actually think that sequencing is right, because if he'd have implosioned and got Mana Wraith,
Mana Wraith,
then he would be unable to play Healbot and he'd lose the game, so... the Mana Wraith was actually worse for him there than the Doomsayer was.
There is a top deck swipe.
That's a pretty good card.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think it's enough, but it looks pretty good right now.
Well, Shade is growing, so next turn Shade is going to deal 7 with the combo, and that's 21. But even if you deal 5 this turn, it's not enough.
It's not enough, no.
Still need some more time.
Yeah, I like this play. He's going to go for the board clear.
Really smart usage of the full board so that the gank boss cannot spawn any more imps.
Yeah, very impressive sequencing by Hoej. But I think he's identified again that he's probably not just going to win this game with the combo that he has in his hand. So he's playing for board control and considering that his out is Ancient of Lore and that might bring him back into the game. So I like the board control play there instead of just the aggressive, swipe in the face, try and push as much damage as possible.
If the game lasts long enough, maybe this Shade will actually outgrow the health on the other side.
Right, because very soon it's getting out of range of any Shadow Flame that this deck can throw at it. Because I think the highest attack minion in this deck is 5, right?
Well, with the buff, Abusive Sergeant might be 7.
That's true. Yeah, okay.
I don't know if he's playing one, but
He is playing an Abusive Sergeant.
Okay.
I saw it in the last set.
so Twilight Guardian finally making an appearance.
TGT is out, guys.
Oh,
We did it.
wow.
It's here.
What is this card?
But yeah, very, very useful card to come down here, and even further insurance against the combo now. So,
But that's his last dragon with the Twilight Drake, so
Yep.
now Blackwing Corruptor will not be able to proc.
yeah. Oh, there we go. That's exactly the card we need. Looks like Hoej is calculating the lethal on the swing back. He has 10 damage on board right now, so he would need Malagos plus spells in his hand, which is just not unlikely.
But how he saw the Dark Bomb, and he know the Dark Bomb was reduced.
Yep. If he's been keeping track of the hand, he'll know that there's exactly 4 cards left in the hand that are reduced, that have been there for a long time, since the turn 6 Emperor, so I wouldn't be surprised to know that he had a read on Malagos being in hand right now, which kind of explains the revealing of the Shade here to try and reduce some of the damage off the board.
Second Savager. Has he used double innovate? Yeah, he did.
He has used double innovate, yes.
That's still the Dr. Boombound 5 game.
Yes. Yeah, so Shade is revealed here. I think Hoej has a read on Malagos being in his opponent's hand because of those 4 cards that we see on the left-hand side of the overlay that have been in his hand since the Emperor turn. I think Hoej is quite within his rights to expect that one of those cards is Malagos because they just haven't been played for so long. So
Absolutely. But now it looks really good for Weasel again. Defender Varg is also nice. He'll be able to kill the 5/5 easily.
Yep.
I think it's Implosion time. You've seen double swipe?
I think only one. Oh, no, he top decked the second one the last turn, didn't he? So
Yeah.
Yes, I believe double swipe is gone, yeah.
So Implosion into the 5/2, Defender Vargas, kill the 5/5, go for face. You might actually even just go for face with everything.
You can tap with that as well, right? Yeah, I like this play. If this is going to end up with the Argus Implosion, I like your play, Nimch. Let's do it. Yes. And yes. I like the tap there first as well, because he could have drawn into a dragon, and then he has the option of using the Blackwing Corruptor instead of the Implosion.
With regards to the trade, I think it's playing safe. You don't have to do that necessarily, but I think it's fine just to clear, especially because you've seen double swipe already.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get a bit more value if there's a Keeper of the Grove, just silencing the 5/4.
Hoej looks like combo to clear here. Yep, that's what we're going to have. Even then, like, combo to clear and he's still retaining a 1/1 on the board. Hoej probably sealing his fate here. He still has the second copy of Force of Nature left in the deck, but without any minions left to really aggressively get a board presence. Most of his sticky stuff is gone at this point. I think he has Ancient of Wars in his deck, if I remember correctly.
Yes, there was one.
Okay. But the Shredders have gone, the Shades have gone. Those are the really difficult to remove minions that he could bank on getting buffed by the combo. So I think as long as Weasel can stay above 14 here and deal with the threats that are put in front of him, he should be able to coast through this game fairly comfortably from here.
Absolutely, Weasel is in a great spot. Is he even playing Malagos? Or did he come? That would be so funny if the deck you can cap Malagos and the deck is still good. Because you use the spells removal and burst, and you have all those good dragons.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. You win a lot of games without Malagos with this deck. You really do. So, might be interesting just to try out straight up Dragon Warlock and just play Ysera instead or something and see how well that goes.
So this is my Malagos deck without Malagos.
Yep. All right, Sylvanas, pretty high value card here, but we see that 2 of those 4 cards that have been being held the whole time are 2 owls, so Sylvanas not going to get any value. Does he in fact just have lethal here?
Yeah,
though?
I think that's it. That's 16 points of damage in his hand.
Okay. Yeah, because the Corruptor is activated as well. Oh, and Abusive.
That's 18 even.
Yeah, that's so much damage.
Alright, so Weasel sees lethal. He attacks with the minions first, then probably a Hellfire. Doesn't even need it.
I wield the power.
Alright, Blackwing Corruptor, Hellfire, and Soulfire to finish it off. Weasel takes game number 3 from Hoej, and is still alive in the series. GG. No Malagos. Malagos in the last 5 cards.
If it's even in the deck.
Yeah, if it's even in the deck. Well, he had to cut something for the Twilight Guardians.
Right.
And we've seen most of the cards.
Yep. It's very true. He's even playing that techie abusive sergeant as well. So where does he find the room?
I don't know. Maybe he's playing a 32 card deck.
Yeah.
That's actually the thing in the card games. Like in Hearthstone, obviously you can't play more than 30 cards, but some players, there was always discussion. You could play a 60 card deck, which was most streamlined. It gave you the best percentage on drawing the cards you need. But some people were like, yeah, I think a 61 card deck is still fine because you have a good percentages. But you know, maybe if I play 62 cards in my deck, oh, I need that one more. So like the new players, they wanted to pack as many cards as possible.
Of course, yeah.
And in Hearthstone, if we get a possibility to actually play more cards in the deck, I think that would be fair. I don't know if Blizzard can handle the coding here, but you know, just minimum 30 cards, but give you a freedom to actually have more cards in the deck.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine, because I think generally the powerful thing in Hearthstone, like the thing that would be too good, is letting certain decks play less than 30 cards in their deck.
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be too good. So increasing the number is a lot better, I think. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Blizzard,
let's do it. Blizzard,
Come
please,
on.
just add more cards so we can have... maybe that's why they are not adding more deck slots, because they just want to make the decks bigger. That would be so cool.
There has to be a reason somewhere,
Conspiracy
right? And
theory,
I don't know it. So anyway, what does Weasel have left to win with here? He has his Druid and his Paladin.
Yeah.
So what do you like going with here for the next game?
Well, I think because you know Hoej is going to bring Druid again, and you've seen most of the cards from the Druid. You've seen one combo. You haven't seen the second Savage Roar, right? Because he kept one Savage Roar.
He kept it in his hand, yeah.
But you can assume there is a second Savage Roar. I think you can just go for the Druid coin flip, especially because you need to win that coin flip. And if you win Druid versus Druid, then the last game you can bring your Paladin and try to go from there.
How do you feel about mid-range Paladin against Druid? Who do you think's favored in that matchup?
It's really a weird match. Depends what you draw as a Paladin, because you have a lot of tools in theory. Like you have Shield Minibot with True Silver to deal with the Druid of the Claw. You might play it really aggressively if you get aggressive hand. Risk Master for battle on free. If there is a swipe, you lose. If there is no swipe, you're in a very good position. So there is a lot of things. I think it's really close to 50-50 because of those relationship between the cards. Like, if there is that, that's that. So
right. Yeah, I think that's a really good assessment. I think it's a very balanced matchup that they can both classes can definitely win.
All right, so that's pretty good. And I think right now we are ready for the break. So guys, stay tuned. We'll have more Hearthstone for you just after we get back.
Days just pass me by. We travel through the light to a city shining white. To a city shining white. A search for the reason why.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Gfinity Summer Masters 2. I'm your host here at the casting desk, and I'm joined by Subtle.
Hey, guys.
Who's going to win? Is Hoej going to win the game and the match, or is Weasel on his way back to actually win the series?
Yeah, I think Weasel will definitely be feeling a lot more confident as picking up the first game there. The thing I talked about before about how big an advantage 2-0 is over 1-1. Like, you generally feel pretty miserable at 2-0 down in a conquest set. So coming back and picking up his first game can definitely give him a little bit of momentum. But I have to say, Hoej has just been playing spectacularly so far today in both of his series so far. So I have to favour him, I think.
We talked about the Weasel before, and you said you watched the Weasel versus Cypher game, and he wasn't playing his A game.
Yeah.
But now he seems like he's getting back on the driver's seat, and sitting in the booth, not even out of your comfort zone, it takes some getting used to. Yes. But if you get in the zone, and at some point you do, he might actually show us even more skill. And he is from a good team from France, Be Genius, and he played a lot before as well. He is the teammate of Don't Stop Me. I'm rooting for him to show us like a lot more Hearthstone.
Speaking of roots, we are into the game and we see Ancient of War in Hoej's hand, which will of course be mulliganed away. Do you like that transition? That's good, right? No?
Which one?
Speaking of roots, we see Ancient of War. And yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. I have to, Senpai, notice me, please.
I do notice you. I do notice Darkness's Aspirant as well.
Yes.
So I really like the card. We talk about it, and I want to see it in action.
And again, fairly lackluster hand on Hoej's side here, if this is his post-mulligan, which I believe it is, because he's sent away the Ancient of War. So Shade is nice for turn 3, but apart from that, not a lot going in his hand, whereas Weasel...
Wild Grove and Aspirant in the same hand?
Weasel has basically everything he needs, and having watched his first set as well, he was drawing early ramp really consistently, and multiple early ramp really consistently. Most of his hands had some combination of 2.
But what is really in his deck?
Oh, there
then?
it is. There's the Innovator.
Oh, that's a super consistent ramp.
Yep.
But what is he playing then? As how did the Druid change? Because normally you play double Wild Growth, and now with the Darkness's Aspirant as well, you have so much ramp.
Yeah.
You did have to cut something.
Yeah, this is actually an experience I've had with the new Druid deck where you play all of the ramp, where you can actually run out of decent minions in some matchups. Like there actually aren't that many left in the deck anymore.
More mana, more problems.
Nice. But yeah, like you're probably not going to complain too much about having your ramp in your opening hand, but I think probably having 2 of them is the perfect number, and 3 is maybe one too many. You'd rather have more consistent pressure with minions, but he's drawn really well here.
The fact that he has the Ancient of Lord to just fill his hand after ramping so much.
Yeah.
It's crazy good.
So definitely a big advantage on the board early here for Weasel, and we see Hoej no way of interacting with that Aspirant right now, but he did top deck the Wild Growth on turn 2, which has allowed him to keep up with the tempo here, and he can choose to develop the Shredder if he wants to.
It was amazingly good. Like, he would be so behind without the Wild Growth, but now he has actually a decent curve.
Yep.
Shredder into Lothep, into Coin, Ancient of Lore. So what can you tell me about Mirror Match? Like, what's the most important thing? Who is going to win? What are the key things?
So let's get the obvious thing out of the way first. If one player gets their ramp and the other doesn't, then it's going to be a really one-sided matchup generally in the mirror match. But this is going to be a lot more back and forth because both players hit their ramp, and a much more interesting matchup to watch. So generally, this is a matchup you can play in 2 ways. You can play it to compound board advantage, where you just try and take value trades where you can and use that to build a board to eventually one-shot with a combo, with a massive board of Savage Roar combo. The other way is just to be really, really super aggressive and just go face as much as you can, and then put the onus on your opponent to trade back into you, and then by the time they've caught back up on the board, you've done so much damage that your force combo is just lethal at 14 anyway. So it'd be interesting to see who assumes the role of the aggressor in this matchup, I guess.
How does the inclusion of Ancient of War change what you just said?
That's a good point, actually. Ancient of War can really shut down that kind of aggressive style that I just talked about. So that could be a very important card if Hoej's able to draw into it.
All right, so we are just looking for the tempo advantage, and if Ancient of Lore is enough. Swipe. Can he have a good trade with that swipe? Actually, if he uses swipe coin hero power.
Wait, what are you swipe? You're swiping the Shade and then coin hero power?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to shut out the mana as well, you might go for Aspirant if you feel like you're specifically threatened by the mana crystals.
Right. His opponent, I think... Did he innovated out Wild Growth last turn, is that right? Yes, he innovated Wild Growth last turn, so you know he wants a specific amount of mana. So targeting the Aspirant may be going through your head here, just because he so specifically set himself at the amount of mana he did.
He will have 7, right?
It's hard to say. The overlay is just a little bit short of letting us know how much mana he has. But, so he's cast 1 Wild Growth, and he has an Aspirant on the board. So he should be 2 mana ahead. So it'll be passing back to him with 7. I think if he loses the Aspirant, he has 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, Exploding Sheep is quite funny here.
Yeah, Explosive Sheep actually pretty good for the player that's behind on the tempo here, because it kind of forces the trade with the Aspirant, and it forces the trade with the Aspirant before you play your minion, unless you want to injure your minion.
Yeah, if you want to force your Ancient of Lore, you might actually play Lore and then take the damage on it.
Right. So yeah, it's passed back to him with 7 mana here, so if the Aspirant dies, he'll only have 6. So he has the choice here between... Does he want to ignore the Explosive Sheep to be able to play his Ancient of Lore, or does he want to play the Ancient of Lore and then trade into the Explosive Sheep? Or like, this is a really complex turn for Weasel here. That sheep, and this is one of the nice things about Shredder, right? Is it brings so many different variables in the game that sometimes the random effect of Shredder can favor the better player because they can consider more options than the opponent. That's not always the case, but sometimes it is.
Do you think like Hoej should smile sheepishly after seeing it as well?
Oh, Nimsh.
There's no face reaction from him. Just
Alright. So he does choose to trade there. The only reason you're trading there is to prevent the sheep from attacking into the Ancient of Lore itself, which then puts it into Keeper of the Grove territory. But it's still exposed to Wrath right now. But we don't see a Wrath in Hoej's hand, so Weasel actually gets away with the play there entirely.
What do you think about just going with Harrison Jones instead of Lothep here? It kind of does the same thing.
Right. I guess... Lothep protects against something like just a swipe to clear it off the board cleanly, and you'd have enough mana left to develop another minion. Whereas if he wants to remove Lothep, he kind of has to, he's forced to use minions because he's unable to swipe. So I think he just really wants to get that 5/3 off the board right now, and Lothep is almost a guaranteed way of doing it.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And from Weasel, he obviously considers his options, but then realizes Dr. Boom is green.
Yeah, he had a long, hard think about his turn, and then went, oh, wait, I top decked Dr. Boom on turn 7. I guess I should play that guy.
Yeah, it's absolutely a great card. And again, I have to ask you, what do you think about just going face here?
That's interesting. He doesn't have any damage in his hand, so I can kind of respect the trade, but he's kind of opening himself up to a big game hunter plus something, which could potentially seize the board back for Hoej at this point.
Would you still be afraid of Mind Control Tech?
I haven't seen Mind Control Tech in Druid for a long time. Not in an aggressive Druid. I think if you thought you were playing against hard wall ramp Druid, you could play around Mind Control Tech a lot more often. Yeah, but I never play around Mind Control Tech against fast Druid. It's just not happening.
Makes sense.
So, Ancient of War, unfortunately, doesn't interact particularly well with Dr. Boom. Something as simple as a Wrath, and it's a very unfavorable trade. 7/7 goes in and sticks around with 2 health.
Oh, wow. He takes the risk.
Nice. Yeah, I like this play. I think he needs as much board presence as he can to fight back. And I think going wide with the 2 minions here that are pretty goddamn sticky is the right play.
And he had to make the math also quickly. Savage Roar, was Savage Roar lethal? That was 8, 15 plus 2, 17, 18. Alright, so Savage Roar was lethal with Keeper of the Grove, but without Keeper...
No,
actually,
you
no,
need
it
to hero
wasn't.
power as well, right?
Yeah,
so he's
he'll be
1 mana
off.
short. Yeah, 1 damage, 1 mana short.
So is the bomb going to kill the Shade now? That's a big question.
Yep.
Would you go?
Oh!
It's still there, but maybe... Can you silence the Shredder?
I wouldn't hate the silence here, but I think if he's been given the information that his opponent does play Ancient of War, I think that's what you're targeting. That's what you've mentally reserved that Keeper of the Grove for. Say, okay, I may need to get through Ancient of War for lethal at some point.
This is so awkward though, because probably would like to play double Shredder, right? But then if the minion turns to be a Web Lord or Mana Ray.
Ooh. All right. Really important bomb there for Hoej that it hit him in the face. He gets to maintain some sort of board presence. I'm still not sure if it's going to be enough to drag himself back into this game, but...
yeah, the loot hoarder didn't help Hoej.
Looks like he's going to take the Doomsayer option. It looks like that's what we're going for. Does he feel that bad? I guess he does, yeah. It's looking pretty bleak at this point.
Well, the alternative is just to charge the Druid into Dr. Boom, and then you lose like both minions.
Right.
That's not a Doomsayer, so it seems like Hoej is going to concede the game.
What? No way. You have an Ancient of War in your hand. There's no way you're conceding at this point.
Well, he pointed, like, look at
He really did. Yeah, I saw the same movement that you did, but I just cannot believe he's conceding at this point.
It's probably our observer, by the way.
Yeah.
Our observer is going to concede this game.
I mean, he only had... well, okay.
Is there anything better than Ancient of War?
So you can play Ancient of Law to draw cards and hit exactly Innovate Big Game Hunter. That's your other play. So...
I think that's something that the life coach did at some point. So he is thinking about it.
Wow!
He's got...
Wow!
Oh man, this is desperate,
What
but he's going for it.
I like this guy. All right.
He's still not losing the series, so he had the chance of being aggressive, and that's a concede from Hoej. He was considering the concede. This means that Weasel takes the game, and that's a tie. It's a 2-2.
I wonder if part of that is him trying to conceal the Ancient of War from his opponent. He may not know that his opponent knows that he's playing Ancient of War. If when we get into the sort of the third level of mind games,
yeah.
So that may have been him trying to concede Ancient of War for probably no reason. Because as we've talked about, Weasel may have had someone scouting the earlier game for him and knows full well that there's probably an Ancient of War.
It's more possible that Hoej had a scout than Weasel. Weasel might not be absolutely sure what's there, but it is possible. Still, Hoej is taking no chances, and he wants to conceal the information.
Yep.
And right now, going into game 5, he might have an edge because there is this Ancient of War, which is not that common, even though I've seen it a couple of times in Druid lists.
Yeah, Ancient of War is generally a card that sneaks back into Druid every now and again, mainly because Black Knight has almost entirely disappeared from Hearthstone. When was the last time you had anything Black Knighted, Nimsh?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's a card that I think you can...
Wait, I remember. It was versus Mage. Okay. And he played Unstable Portal.
Ah, there we go. I think it's definitely a card that you can consider bringing back in at some point because... as many people have talked about today, Twilight Guardian, one of the most impactful cards from TGT to come into the game. So suddenly there's, a whole new breed of big taunt minion.
There are targets.
Yeah,
yes.
so you can suddenly you can hit it, always hit it against Druid because Druids are never playing around Black Knight anymore. You can hit Twilight Guardians. You can hit the ever-present Sludge Belchers. Misha, of course. Yeah, there's targets. I think there's an argument for it.
If metagame slows down even more, because right now we have the Secret Paladin being aggressive as well, so there are not that many targets. You can in the more mid-rangey version, sometimes people run Shredder in those Paladin versions, but the very aggressive one doesn't run any taunts. And we mentioned Misha, but versus Hunter, you don't want to have Black Knight most of the time.
Yeah, you can get value off like a Houndmaster if they're not playing around it.
Yeah, that is value, but the card seems to be too slow on turn 6. It's not what you want to do on turn 6.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, we're down to the final matchup now, so we are guaranteed to see Druid against Paladin, if I've remembered the classes correctly. So this is a matchup we talked about a little bit before, and it's a very 50-50 matchup that comes down to the culmination of a lot of individual interactions between cards.
Absolutely. And you've seen the Paladin from Weasel before.
I have, yeah.
What can you tell me about that Paladin build?
We saw Murloc Knight. He's playing Tuskar Jouster as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it looks like he's favoring that over a heal bot. It's generally one of those or the other. I didn't see any zombie chows, but apart from that, it just looks like a fairly consistent, curve out Paladin with Minibot, Master for Battle, Shredder, Sludge Belcher, Tuskar Jouster, etc.
All right, sounds great. So this is the moment, guys. Game number 5. The winner of this is going to take the series and advance to our top 4. Is it going to be Hoej or Weasel? Just coming back from 0-2, now at 2-2 and a good score, but double Wild Growth.
Double Wild Growth, pretty good draw for Hoej. Weasel. Double Muster for Battle, and we see no swipe in Hoej's hand as the Druid. So those Muster for Battles are going to do work unless we see a swipe come flying out the deck here for Hoej at some point.
But no great 2-drop for Weasel. He will only be able to just use the hero power.
Right. How do you feel about the coin usage here? Because you can potentially go coin wild growth, Druid of the Claw.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Because of how the hand is shaped. If you let's theorize a bit. So if you don't do anything, you wild growth on 2. So you don't do anything on 1. You don't do anything on 2. And then on 3 you will have 4 mana crystals.
Yeah.
So we can cast Swipe.
He could cast Swipe, or he could cast Keeper of the Grove, maybe to interact with the mini bot. You know, those things can line up pretty well.
That Swipe is actually turning this game around.
I would love to see him just play Druid of the Claw here, though, I don't think there's any need to swipe right now. I think you can convince your opponent that you don't have a swipe in your hand by just playing Druid of the Claw. Yep, love it. Absolutely love this play.
So he's not afraid of Quartermaster because there will be only 4 mana crystals?
Yes, exactly. And now, you know, if the 1/1s are retained the turn afterwards, he now has a more on-curve swipe where he can fit in a hero power as well if he wants to. So I really love the Druid of the Claw play here from Hoej. I think it's a super strong play.
Weasel has a good reaction though with that equality, just keeping the minions and kind of forcing the swipe, and then he has a second Master of, for battle.
Yeah. Like the reason I love the Druid of the Claw that play there so much is that it could have potentially baited out the second muster for battle, and at that point, once you've seen both musters gone, you know, you're happy to just throw your swipes because that's the main usage for swipe in this matchup.
So Weasel visibly upset. If there will be no swipe, the game was his.
Yeah, if there was no swipe there, the game was just over. Quartermaster on that board, Druid never comes back from that. They can't deal with an army of 3/3s. It's just they don't have the tools in their class to do that.
But still, even after that swipe, he is in a good shape. He decides to go for Master. He has all the other options as well. He has a second. He has a task card Jouster, like a big minion, and it seems like Hoej. Oh man, you would love to see Harrison, right?
Yeah.
Harrison into swipe.
I just want to talk for a second about he chose to attack after casting the new muster for battle, which most people sort of instantly look at and call a misplay, but some of the times, you know, that the charges of that weapon aren't particularly valuable in this matchup. You know, it's not like it's an aggressive matchup or Paladin Mirror where the Light's Justice is really valuable. So I think actually in a lot of situations, attacking afterwards and deliberately giving your weapon 1 less durability is actually the correct play to play around Harrison Jones.
And it worked here because there was the Harrison Jones, yeah.
I don't know whether that was something that Weasel considered deliberately or whether he just acted too fast and it worked out nicely for him, but something I've been considering a lot more recently, that actually sometimes playing around Harrison Jones with the double muster interaction is better than keeping the weapon charges.
And most of the time you'll replace the weapon anyway with Resolver at some point.
Right, yeah. It's very rare in a lot of matchups outside of like the Paladin Mirror that, you know, all charges of a Light's Justice get used for good value. Normally one of them just gets chucked at the face anyway and it's not a big deal. So
absolutely. Alright, so it seems like Weasel got what he wanted, the Quartermaster, but is it really that great? I think it's still the best play.
Right, but he'd have to trade. I mean, unless he wants to go all out aggressive and go face, the trades on the board don't look that great with the Quartermaster. You still have to trade 2 guys into Harrison, 1 into the pilot, into the Shredder, and then the Shredder could still just drop another 3 attack dude that still trades. Like it's not the nicest 4-minion Quartermaster you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, it's not the best one. And it seems, as you mentioned, like you might just go for face and force the Druid to trade into your minions. Well, you definitely do not go 2 guys into Harrison, 1 guy into Shredder, and then try to kill the whatever is being dropped from Shredder.
That doesn't look right, does it? Like that just doesn't look like a play.
But on the other hand, Paladin, as we mentioned many times before, doesn't have the burst. So even if he goes 12 to face now,
right. And also, if you just go face and then he trades a 5/4 into one of your 3/3s, how are you dealing that 1 damage to the Harrison right now? Like, don't you just have to put another 3/3 into it anyway? Like. It's a really awkward situation. Like, it looks like something fantastic has happened here, but just hasn't. And
Hoej is actually BMing.
I think, does he have lethal?
That's
Druid of the Claw Charge Savage Roar is 9, 13,
plus
8 is 21.
Oh my god, Hoej just cast Savage Roar and takes the game with exact lethal. I don't even know what turn that is, but Hoej wins the series 3-2 and advances the top 4. Weasel is not out, but he is absolutely not happy. He almost had it. Almost
really
had
did,
it.
Yeah, and as we said, that turn with the Quartermaster just looked awkward. We just looked at how awkward it was to trade. We failed to catch that actually if he just went face, he lost the game. Like, it just lethal on the backswing. So looks like he was forced to make the miserable trades there that we didn't like. But congratulations to Hoej. He's played fantastically in both the series so far. So.
The sheer aggression that Hoej represents. He's such a calm person, but in game, he turns into a monster, just taking every small damage, every small point of damage counts.
Yep, in game he's just like absolute stone cold killer. Just like he just like wants to murder people. Like he knows Hearthstone is a game about killing people, and he's going to find the most efficient way of killing you he can. So really impressed with Hoej's play today. Just spectacular, immaculate play in both series that I've seen so far, and beyond what you'd call. It's not just he hasn't made mistakes, he's made really strong, intuitive Hearthstone plays. Like the turn where he reversed the momentum on the in the Paladin matchup in the first series when he set up the Savage Roar lethal. Just little moments like that really separate, a solid, consistent Hearthstone player to a tournament-winning Hearthstone player.
Also the fact when he was really patient against the Malygos deck, and he didn't change his playstyle to be more risky. He was just consistently playing his own playstyle, his own Hearthstone. But I want to see exactly what happened. So let's throw to analysts. And guys, tell us, what were the favorite moments? Take it away.
Thanks, Nimshin. So I'm back here on the desk with Monk and Lothar, obviously. Hoej, our first semi-finalist, advancing out of the group, winning Group A.
No surprise here, I would say. Yep. Oh, that was a really interesting series. I have some notes here. There, in the one game, when Hoej did opt to trade the Shade of Naxxramas, and I don't know if you remember the exact situation. He had a 4/4 Shade that was being traded when it wasn't necessarily needed against the Warlock. There was like a situation where you can play the second Shade.
I remember that game.
Yeah, that was a risky move, and I thought that Hoej, with his line of play in previous games, would be going always for the risky plays, for the more aggressive stuff, right?
It did seem like at that point that Hoej was out of cards and he was pretty much needed to rely on a top deck combo in order to win the game.
And he actually did draw the Savage Roar next turn of Force of Nature. He had one of the powers.
Force of Nature that he was drawing.
Yeah, and he had the Savage Roar in his hand. He did top deck the Force of Nature, so he would have the perfect setup for lethaling next turns. And I think that was one of the situations when he did kind of retreat from his usual strategy to be the most aggressive player possible. And we saw that in the first match that was being broadcast with the situation when he started to race against the Paladin to set up lethal for next turn, and that didn't... I think that was the reason why he didn't win against the Dragon Warlock. But yeah, he won eventually. So
yeah, and he won because he tried to set up lethal in that final turn of the final game as well. So just like you mentioned, Lothar, some of Hoej's best plays are with that Druid deck when he basically tries to set up lethal. He doesn't go for the plays where he just tries to keep on fighting for board. He knows that if he keeps trying to clear those Paladin minions, eventually the Paladin's going to grind him out.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of aggressive plays that set up to win the game, let's talk about the very last play of that last game. Obviously, Weasel went all in with the Paladin, thinking that that was his route to victory, and then, as Subtle said, got caught with lethal in the backswing with the Savage Roar. What did you think of that play from Weasel? Even though he did get caught on the lethal, I thought it was still a decent line of play.
I think that was correct. I think that was correct to go face with everything, because you have, as Monks also said, usually the Paladin grinds out the Druid, but in this situation, when you saw already one swipe, you saw, if I recall correctly, 2 cards were not being used for a long time in his left from the left position of the Druid player. So he maybe would have made the assumption that there will be a combo, or at least a part of it, right? But it's still, he needs, on turn 8, he needs the Druid of the Claw in his hand to make it lethal with the Savage Roar. I think it was correct to go face.
Well, I think one thing is that you always, when you're playing against Druid, you're always thinking about the combo Force of Nature, Savage Roar. And it's actually pretty rare that you just dive from Druid of the Claw into Savage Roar. Sometimes you're always thinking turn 9, Force of Nature, Savage Roar.
Or turn 7.
Yeah, turn 7. Yeah, but turn 8, it's like a kind of an awkward turn, and you're just thinking about it. How can I make it most awkward for my opponent? You're not really thinking about dying right there, and I think you definitely saw in the facial expression of Weasel, he didn't really think he was going to die on that turn at all.
Yeah, but also, if I may for a second still, the board, Pilot Shredder and Harrison Jones, those are two really awkward creatures to trade in. Yeah. Like, there was no good trade there. So definitely a good option to go face.
Yeah, well, we're going to see the final match of Group A coming up after the break. It's going to be Weasel. He still has a chance to qualify for the second place. And Faley, who rebounded from his 3-0 loss to Hoej to 3-0 Cypher, who was one of the favourites for the tournament. So I can't wait for that match. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be the deciding match of Group A at the Gfinity Summer Masters 2.